I guess, walk me through a little bit about what happened.
Okay, do you want me to start from
Yeah, start from the beginning.
the injury? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, shoot, the first thing I remember was, I think it was about maybe 2 weeks ago now.
Okay.
It was on Saturday, so a week and a half ago. I was just making breakfast like I normally do, and I was getting ready to go on a bike ride. And I remember I was going up to UCSC, and I was just gonna hang out with friends, maybe stay the night at a dorm, maybe explore those caves that are up by UCSC. So I had a huge backpack packed full of food and toiletries and whatever I would need to spend a night, just in case if I was gonna stay with them. And so that was my plan. And the only thing I remember from that morning was making breakfast and then kind of getting ready. And from there, I just remember waking up in the hospital and being really confused. But apparently I made it. I biked down through Henry Cal, which is the trestle's probably only 4 miles from here, so it wouldn't take me very long. Maybe like 25 minutes most. And apparently I fell off the bridge somehow, which I don't know how, because I've gone over that bridge like hundreds of times. So something must have gone wrong, I guess.
So this is on your way to UCSC?
Yeah, so I never made it there.
Okay.
And then I woke up, that was Saturday. I think I woke up Sunday morning and was in the hospital. And my memory is still really hazy about the whole hospital even. But yeah, barely remember anything, just kind of being there, watching TV, having IV needles in both my arms, stuff like that. And then I got discharged, I think Monday afternoon, and came back here. And I was in tons of pain, like everywhere. All my muscles are still really sore to the touch, pretty much all over my body, and all my joints really hurt. But mostly my head, like right in here, hurts the most, and I get migraine headaches all the time, stuff like that. And then, let's see, I got back Monday, so I don't know when it was I left, I guess. I think it was Thursday morning. But yeah, I was kind of going in and out of consciousness in weird like phases. And I don't remember leaving at all. I just remember, the first thing I remember from that whole thing was that I woke up, I kind of remember waking up in sand, probably on a beach, and I had my backpack on, and I was kind of wandering around, really confused, and my memory goes in and out. But I remember kind of being in a city, which I was told later was San Francisco, but I have no memory of how I got there, and I wasn't aware that it was San Francisco when I was there. And then I was really disoriented, and I was trying to figure out where I was, and it was kind of dark, or like the sun was just coming up, so I was asking people like what was going on or where I was. And somehow, I don't remember how, but I think like someone must have pointed out a bus to me, like that bus will take you somewhere, like that kind of thing. And so I just kind of wandered towards it and got on, and it was only $10, so I paid the bus ticket. And right when I sat down, I just fell asleep. And I guess I was asleep for 5 hours, but I woke up right when the bus stopped, like instantly. And then I walked out, and I was still really confused and disoriented, and I was just kind of walking around. And then after probably a half hour, I kind of figured out that someone told me I was in Reno, Nevada. But up to this, I don't know, it's hard to describe how it felt. It was like my head was just searing with pain, and I guess the best way I can describe it is that it felt like I was in a dream. Like when you're dreaming, you're kind of just thrown into a situation, and when you're dreaming, you're thrown into a situation and you just kind of go with it, and you're not trying to think about like, why am I here or how am I here? I was just like, okay, I have a backpack and I'm in Reno, so I'll keep going. And then I walked into a casino and there were people singing karaoke, so I went over and sang a song just for fun. I was like just kind of going with it again. And then still my memory is really hazy of this part, but somehow I was talking to different people and they were kind of concerned about me, and people were giving me money, and I think someone gave me a jacket and a sleeping bag because I ended up having those and I have no idea where they came from. And then and then ended up going to a computer to figure out like what was going on, because I had Pittsburgh Steelers stickers in my backpack, and that's one of my favorite football teams. So I was looking at it like Pittsburgh, maybe that's where I'm from. So in my brain I was just like, all right, I'll go to Pittsburgh, even though I was entirely across the country from it. And then so from there I walked out to the highway, just started walking east and ran a little bit, jogged, walked.
On the highway?
Yeah, and then just on the side. And I think I made it about 3 or 4 exits down, so it was probably about around 10 miles. And then I just stuck out my thumb, and someone picked me up and dropped me off in Sparks, Nevada, which isn't that far away from Reno. And then from there, I wanted to go find a bus station, so I went to the bus station and I was asking around like if there are any buses that take you east, and people were saying no, it's mostly just inner city, and the only bus that goes east is the Greyhound, which is really expensive. And so I was still kind of looking around for what I should do, and I saw someone else who was asking about buses going east. So I caught up with him and was like, hey, you're going east too, right? And like we should meet up. And we were both kind of excited because he wanted a companion. So he was like, yeah, sure, let's go. And then just like that, basically we were friends. And his name was Chris, he told me. And he was going to Cincinnati, Ohio by hitchhiking, and he was a seminary on a kind of a spiritual trip, walking and hitchhiking around the country, trying to just get by on goodwill of other people. So he was a really nice guy. And then we ended up walking out to the highway together and just hitchhiking again. And eventually, after a couple hours, someone picked us up. Really nice guy who was going from California to Montana. So he drove us like 5 hours all the way through pretty much to the middle of Nevada, in the middle of the desert, and dropped us off. And I slept through that car ride too. And that was about, 5 hours, I think I said. And I guess when you have a brain injury, I'm tired nonstop. I woke up just now after 9 hours of sleep, and I'm still exhausted, and I could go back to sleep for another couple hours if I needed to. I slept 5 hours on the bus, 5 hours on this trip, and then the sun was going down, so we walked just out into the middle of the desert, basically, and I threw down my sleeping bag and got in it and fell asleep again, and that was at 9 o'clock, and then I woke up and it was 8 o'clock, so I had another 11 hours of sleep. And then when I woke up, I was really cold and I couldn't feel my feet or anything, and I looked around because it was actually light, and there was just snow all over the mountains on the horizon, and there was patches of snow on the ground. And I checked out, had a little thermometer / compass on my backpack, and it said it was 15 degrees, so super cold. But I don't know, for some reason it wasn't concerning me at all, and I just kind of packed up and got ready to go out to the highway again. So that's what we did. We just packed everything up, got dressed, walked out to the highway at 9 and just sat there. And that's pretty much all we were doing. We were just trying to hitchhike again, trying to go east. And I had no reason, I had no idea why I was going east besides getting to Pittsburgh, but it just seemed totally normal in my head for some reason. I have no idea why. But so we go out to the highway, we took turns going out and holding our thumbs out, waiting for people to pick us up. And it must have been about 2.5 hours. And we were basically in the middle of nowhere at a truck stop, gas station. This was I think it was called Elko, Nevada, which is dead center in the middle of Highway 80, in the middle of the desert. There's nothing much there, just trailer parks, truck stop, gas stations, and then desert for miles everywhere. So there's pretty much no way to get out of there besides, because the closest city is Nevada or Salt Lake City, and that's 500 miles in either direction of just desert. So we were kind of stranded there just waiting for someone to pick us up because that was our only hope. And it took about 2.5 hours, I think, and we were kind of giving up hope, but there's nothing else we could do. And finally, a dad and a daughter came by in a truck and picked us up. And he was saying that, like, he was saying he picks up hitchhikers all the time because there's nothing you can do when you're out there. You're pretty much screwed. And he was a super nice guy. He put us in the back of his truck, and I laid down there, and he said he was going to Salt Lake City. So I was like, cool, that's pretty far east. And then, yeah, I think it was another 4-hour, 5-hour car ride, and I just lay down in the back of the truck with my backpack, and the second I lay down, I fell asleep again and didn't wake up until we were in Salt Lake City, and he was pulling over. It's really bizarre. I think I've been told that, I guess, when your brain's that damaged, you really need sleep all the time, so to get it recovered. So I ended up sleeping, I think, 19 hours out of that 24-hour span. I was only up 5 hours out of it. So my memory, like, I only have 5 hours that I can remember, and I probably only remember about a half hour of that anyway. So then we were in Salt Lake City, and I woke up and we were walking into the city. And at this point, I think it was about a day and a half since I had left, but not that I had any memory of it. But when I was walking through the city, I was kind of like something is definitely wrong. Like, I shouldn't not know who I am. And I was kind of becoming more aware that something wasn't right. So we decided that we should go find a library. So we walked about, I don't know, probably to the middle of downtown and found a library. So I sat down on a computer, and my friend Chris was sitting at a different computer, and he was looking up bus routes. And I was Googling a bunch of names that were going through my head. I had about 4 or 5 different names.
Like what names?
There was Kyle, James, Chris, Matt, and Jackson. And I didn't know, those were just names I could pull out of my head really out of thin air, and I had no idea what they meant to me or anything like that. But now I know that those are like my 3 best friends and my name. So I punched those into Google, and I kept typing them with different keywords like missing persons, Pennsylvania, missing person, California. And finally, it took probably like 15, 20 minutes of searching around like that. And then my face just popped up on the front page of Google, and I was kind of looking at it, and I didn't recognize it at all. I didn't even recognize myself in a mirror. So I was looking at it, and I was like, all right. And then I looked at the name. It said Matt Abraham, like missing California. And right when I read that, my head just started piercing with pain right in here, and started throbbing. And I guess got really shaky and warm. And then I clicked on it and I saw all the pictures of Henry Cowell State Park and of my house, and read a little. I still can't read very well. Like, the words, when I try and read, it comes into my head in a different order, so I have to read it like word by word and block out all the other words to be able to do it. So I couldn't read the article, but I was able to read like 60-foot fall off a bridge, and then my head just kept throbbing with pain. And after about a few seconds, like, suddenly memories just started shooting back, and I remembered like what happened and where I was and what was going on and like who I was. And yeah, it was just incredibly painful everywhere. I think I started going into a little bit of shock too, and my whole body started sweating, and I was really nauseous. And so I called Chris over, and I could hardly talk, and I was just pointing at the computer, and he's like, "Oh man, that's you, huh?" And we agreed that we should call the number that was on it, and it was for the Santa Cruz Police Department, or Scotts Valley Police Department, I think. So Chris called the number and told him everything that had happened and where I was. And at this point, I just felt so sick. I had to go to the bathroom, and I was throwing up in the bathroom for probably 10, 15 minutes, and then came out, and Chris was telling me that the police were going to come pick me up, so we just had to wait in the library. So I waited there. I just waited on couches there. And then the police finally came, and I was just still searing with pain in my head, and memories were still kind of shooting back to me, and I wasn't able, at this point, I wasn't able to recall any memories unless people asked me about them. So when the police came, they had a bunch of information on me, so they would ask me my name and my birthday and all that, and it would probably take me 15, 20 seconds per question, but once I thought about it a lot, I was able to kind of pull the information out. And then I guess I just slowly was able to do it a little bit better. And then an ambulance came and picked me up probably an hour later from the library. And then I was in the hospital again for, I think it was like 8 until 1 in the morning. And then my family came, and then everything was coming back to me, and it was just really bizarre. And that's about it. And then we stayed overnight in Salt Lake City and then drove back the next day. And I've been here ever since, and so far nothing has happened. I haven't really gone back into that state, I don't think. But yeah, it's hard to explain. I don't even understand it myself, and it's extremely frustrating, like not being able to pull all this information, but there's nothing I can do, so I'm just trying to, stay happy about it, because it's about all I can do.
So, just so I have the timing right,
Yeah.
when you left here, and you said it was a day and a half, 2 days when you got to Salt Lake City?
Yeah, so I think I left here, it was dark, so it must have been Wednesday night or Thursday morning. Mm-hmm. And then I don't even remember leaving, and I don't remember how I got to San Francisco. But I remember when I was in San Francisco, it was like the sun was just barely coming up, and it was still pretty dark. So that was, I guess Thursday morning. Then got into Reno, and by the end of that day, we were in Elko, Nevada, halfway through Nevada.
And then I think Friday was
Friday's when they found me.
Okay.
And when we made it to Salt Lake City.
Okay.
And then we came back Saturday. So I was only gone for 2 days, really. It was a day and a half that I was missing.
And during, so when you left here, you said you don't really remember that?
No, there's just a huge gap in memory. Even the night before or anything, I really only remember making breakfast the morning that I fell, and then a few kind of glimpses in the hospital, and then I kind of remember being here and things that happened, but not in any particular order, and I must have been here for 3 days or so, but I definitely don't remember any, being here that long. And then my first real, solid memory was, I guess, in San Francisco and in Reno, Nevada. It's just a huge clip of time that's missing. And even the week leading up to the accident, I can barely remember.
So during this time that you went, from here all the way to Salt Lake City, I know you said that it's kind of hazy, like a dream. I mean, mm-hmm. Do you ever remember feeling a little scared or worried or confused?
Definitely confused, but I don't ever remember being scared. It was just really more confusion than anything. Had I had more time to figure it out, what was going on, I probably would have been scared, but the first reaction was just, I don't know, it was just a really bizarre, surreal feeling. And I was just walking around some unfamiliar place, and I had a backpack full of camping gear from when I was gonna go to UCSC. And I don't even know how to explain it. It was just like I was in a dream, it wasn't anything out of the ordinary, kinda. Because I was just kind of thrown into it, and I was going about it, but I didn't know how to make any sense of it.
Did anyone who you encountered, they didn't ask you anything, or was it kind of hard for you? I mean, do you remember ever having conversations about where you were coming from, or what you were doing, or things like that?
I remember talking to the bus driver who dropped me off in Sparks, and I was asking her where we were and where we came from, and she was answering all my questions, and she looked really concerned, but I think most people were assuming I was on drugs or something like that, and they were concerned about me, but they didn't really want to put themselves out there to help me that much, because they didn't know, I guess. And then she ended up going back, I think, when she made it back to San Francisco, she looked all on the news reports and ended up seeing me and reporting that she had dropped me off in Nevada.
I think I remember. I believe, is that where the picture came from?
Yeah, I think so. I think that was in either Sparks or Reno.
Okay.
But yeah, the other people I talked to
So like if when they ask you like what's your name, when they ask you what would you say? I mean, did you know?
I was telling them my name was Jackson,
Okay.
and I don't know where that came from. I have one good friend who's named Jackson, so I mean it had to have come from that. But I I didn't know, and I didn't want to make a huge deal out of it to everybody. I
Mhm.
just only people I was really comfortable with, like, because I didn't think people would believe me, and I just wasn't comfortable like with all that attention. So it's just like, oh, my name's Jackson. I don't know where I'm from, that kind of thing. The only person I told was the bus driver and Chris, the person I ended up meeting. That I had no idea who I was or what was going on.
What about that the YouTube video? That I don't know, I'm not sure if you. I mean,
Yeah,
we've seen it, and it's basically it was after you
that was after
fell,
I fell.
but
And
before you left.
yeah, I was told that that I think, was that the night that I left or was it the night before?
I think it was a Tuesday night video.
Okay, so it wasn't the night that I left.
Mhm.
It was just somewhere in that span of time. And people have told me about it, and I've watched it, and
Does it kind of
I
trigger
look at it.
anything?
It doesn't. It's weird. I kind of remember it, but it's only like if you were trying to remember a dream, you know? It's like you're like, oh yeah,
Bits and
I was
pieces.
there. I remember kind of that happened, but I definitely don't remember sitting in that chair. But that's all, everything in that movie was definitely, my personality is completely intact, and those are all things that I would say and that I still believe in. So it made sense to me, but it's really surreal to watch. I think I've only watched it once because it made my head hurt, and it was really confusing because I don't remember it, but I'm
Mhm.
watching myself do something. Yeah.
So I mean, is there anything you wanted to say? I guess about did the doctors ever tell you? I mean, when you sort of were found and came back, anything about what was happening in your brain? Did they say anything about that?
I had a CT scan and I had an MRI, and for the most part, they were completely clean. I just had, um, I just have a severe concussion and lots of severe bruising in my brain, and I have a few gashes on the side of my head here, and it's really sore to the touch. So for the most part, I assume it's just a concussion, like a really bad concussion, and that's all I've been told. So, and I've looked up a little bit of the symptoms, but I think, yeah, wandering off and a little bit of amnesia and those kind of symptoms seem to be pretty common.
Mhm.
But I think that's all I know.
Anything I wanted to want to say about maybe people who have these sort of concussions, and I mean, what other people may not know. I mean, it sort of seems like you interacted with a lot of people that didn't even know there was something wrong with you.
Yeah, shoot, for the most part, I think it's a really strange injury, like to your brain. From what I can tell, people say a lot of things that they don't remember, and they do a lot of things and they're not in their right mind. They're not actually themselves. And I think that's what a lot of people don't understand. Like, why would I leave, and why would I go through all this, and what was I thinking? But I don't even know how to explain it. Like, that's what my brain was telling me I should be doing, and I can hardly even remember it. And that's not something I would normally do. I would never leave. Like, I don't know why anyone would want to leave Santa Cruz and go to Utah. Yeah, I mean, that's all I can think of. It's just the head injury. I guess it just takes a lot of rest, but
So
I don't
anything
know.
to anyone who maybe encounters someone who maybe might be going through the same thing, or any advice, anything you want to say?
Any advice? Yeah, I think Chris did the best thing that he could have possibly done when he met me. He was like, all right, well, I'm not letting you out of my sights. We can go on this adventure, and you can do what you want to do, but you're staying with me the whole time, and I'm going to take care of you. and we're gonna figure out who you are eventually and what's going on. But in the meantime, you got to stay with me. So we'll.
So when with him, he kind of maybe knew something was up.
Yeah, he knew something was wrong right away because he was really the only person. Him and the bus driver were really the only people that I talked to for more than like a sentence kind of thing. Like I really had a conversation with, and they could both tell something was definitely wrong. So, so yeah, he really wanted to take care of me. He was an awesome guy.
Okay, cool. Is there anything else you wanted to say?
I just wanted to say thank you for everyone who was out there looking for me and my family and the whole community. And this was really incredible, and I hope everyone's always asking me like if they can do anything for me right now, but the only thing that I want is for this community to remember the love that we had in the past few days, the love and kindness, and like really community feeling that everyone had and pulled together, and try and continue that through all of our aspects of life and not just when there's a tragedy.